you think of the best coaches, you think of someone like Pep Guardiola or Alex Ferguson or Dave Brailsford, or you're like, they have something that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
I mean, even my boss Claude, his dad Butch, you know, my ex-boss JP, like they all just have that, whether it be a little more knowledge or just knowing when to say the right thing, how to say it. Like, and it's not necessarily information, it's knowing the what and the when and the how to deliver something, deliver a message. So like when I watch Claude teach, like people just hang on his word. It's like they just love it. And you could say the exact same thing I say, but he'll say it better. And he'll say it with a better attitude, and he'll say it like a little bit brighter, and he'll emphasize a certain word over others. And like there's a skill to that.
Do you think he read that in books and listened to podcasts to get it?
No, not necessarily. But I also think he's got a very unique upbringing in that he grew up watching the best golf coach in the world every day of the week, and he had Tiger Woods who he would look after and all these amazing players. But I don't think you can necessarily either recreate something or have one way of doing it. So I think for me, if I can come up with like a different perspective from listening to somebody else, it's not a bad thing. I don't think you'll find it all from podcasts and books. I think you have to do it.
Yeah.
But you think doing it is my easy bit in a way. Like I do the 10 hours of coaching a day, but it's trying to find something that you could drop in a lesson or drop in a conversation that just tweaks things. And it could come from anywhere. Like I listened to one on, I think it was the CEO of Pixar. He had said something about a meeting. Like if he was having a meeting with his team, he would ask Steve Jobs not to say anything for 10 minutes. He said let them talk and let them speak and allow the conversation to develop, because if you set the tone of the conversation, they'll all follow. You're the leader. Whereas if they start it, that's the tone set and the conversation can flow. And like even with our team at work, I've been trying to do this in our meetings recently where like we did a presentation with one of them yesterday, and it's so hard to stay quiet for 10 minutes and not say anything. Yeah. Because you've got all these things in your head, but it really does let these young guys like give really good information and good presentations, and it lets them flow a bit more. And
it can go both ways though, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't set the tone that you want, then the whole energy of the meeting can go, and then you actually spend, after you've broken your silence after 10 minutes, you spend the rest of the time trying to get it back onto where you wanted it to get to. But
that's where it's the goal, right? Like it's like if I have something that I need done or an outcome that I need from a meeting, I'll lead it.
Right.
But if I have something that like maybe I've asked them to do and asked for some information, or there's no harm in me just shutting up for a while, right? Like, so it's kind of just judging it, but it's the same with coaching, right? Like if you have a premeditated thing that you want to get done, like the bad lesson that I gave, that I felt like, okay, I know how to fix this and I know what he needs and I just need to deliver it better. Like I'll go in and lead that. Yeah. But if you have somebody coming that has a couple of ideas that they want to explore, and if you jump in with your opinion straight away, then they never get that across to you.
You ruin their creativity, right?
Yeah. So it's a balance, and that's the coaching side, right? Like that's the balance of knowing what it is that, I suppose, knowing when and how to say something, right? Or even sometimes just not to say it at all.
I think that's the latter is, I think, the hardest for everyone.
Definitely. And you had said it to me, and I had asked you a question a couple of weeks ago, and you had completely twisted around the way I wanted to deliver it, and I was like, that makes a lot of. But if I hadn't reached out to you and said it, I wouldn't have gotten it. Yeah. It's the same if I didn't listen to a podcast. Maybe I just don't have one little insignificant, or seemingly insignificant piece of information that someday I'll just call upon and use, and if it's at the right time, then great.
I think one of the biggest tools so far that I've picked up from this is the reflection on the actual coaching hours. Yeah. Because you have so much data.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, I mean, mate, I love podcasts. I appreciate everyone that listens to this podcast, and hopefully I'm the same. And I've said this a lot in the close to 900 shows we've done. Like, don't listen to this conversation today and take everything that you've said, but listen and take one thing and do it really well. And because I think that gives people anxiety as well. You listen or you read a book, and I've seen this a lot with people. They'll read a book on whatever it is, motivation, leadership. It could be a number of different things. And the next day they've got a list of 10 things that they want to do. And it's hard to say to someone, you're going to fail at all of them, but they are. Whereas it's just like, just do one thing. There's very few people, and it's the same with nutrition. Most people, for a few days, they can cut out everything they need to. But a lot of people, and this is what we worked on, we're like, okay, we'll take that out and we'll see how we go. And then you only have one thing to focus on, and you can put all your energy into it, and there's no anxiety. Whereas too many people are working on too many things at once, and there's no absolute focus.
Yeah, and it's actually one of the things that like I've found using a journal helps.
Yes,
it's like I'll take all of those things in, like those 10 things on the list, they will go in that. But I will pick from that one, and then the rest of them you can use to explore later on. So even just every so often, I'll just flick back through stuff. And like, it's funny what you come across and go, oh yeah, I remember writing that. That could be quite interesting for the next month, or, you know what I mean? So you can kind of almost sieve through it, and you can filter it rather than going, right, there's 10 things that I need. It's like, okay, well, what's the one? So that example from the Pixar guy was a simple one. I was like, it doesn't take much for me to do a month where I just let somebody else lead this stuff and like just see what happens. And it might be a disaster, and if it is, I'll never do it again, but it also might work really well. And if so, it might be something that we just continue, and it just rolls into being normal rather than focusing on it, and then I can focus on something else.